Good morning, wrestling fans. Today is Monday, July 17th, 2023. Lance Brock here on this Monday morning episode of GMWF. Hope everyone had a great weekend, especially on Saturday with all the great pro wrestling action that took place. Just another reminder, Saturday night early, or actually it was more early Sunday morning, the special live episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic, talking about all the pro wrestling from that day, more so Impact Wrestling's Slammiversary and the two AEW shows from that night, Saturday Collision and Battle of the Belts 7, which I think because I was so tired, I think I forgot to bring a couple things up, but my mistake about that. And on this Monday morning episode of GMWF, I just wanted to talk about a new podcast that I have been starting to listen to. There are now 2 episodes available, and this new podcast is Chillin' with the Villain, with the villain Marty Scurll. And on this podcast, him and his producer / co-host, I guess you could say, watch classic wrestling and talk about it. In the first episode, they covered the Raw after WrestleMania 14, and then on the newest episode that I was just listening to before I left the house this morning, they are talking about Survivor Series 2002, which was the first ever Elimination Chamber match. And like I said, I just started listening to it before I left the house today, so haven't listened to the whole episode of it yet, but so far what I have heard of the podcast I do like so far. Definitely a big fan of Marty Scurll, and so far, to be honest, I mean, I'm kind of surprised that he's not with one of the big companies, either WWE or AEW, or he's not even in New Japan right now either, which I'm kind of surprised, especially AEW. He hasn't even appeared for, which, of course, going back to his New Japan days, he has a history with the Elite. And so back to the podcast, I do think it is pretty good so far. I would recommend listening to it if you haven't heard it yet. And definitely a lot better than mine. That's all I have to say, but that's not saying much, since about every podcast is better than this one. But I definitely recommend checking out Marty Scurll's new podcast. And speaking of wrestling podcasts, I mentioned it here on 360 before, and it's been out for a little while now, but Mike McGuire's podcast, McGuire on Wrestling, is also very good as well. Every week he goes over all the news in the last week and also talks to Dave Meltzer every week. And on the newest episode from yesterday, of course, talked about AEW wrapping up their Canadian tour, which Mike McGuire was in Calgary for. So I just wanted to mention a couple podcasts that I listen to. Sometimes I do like to do that. Do episodes about other podcasts, ones that I listen to on a regular basis. Of course, I would say almost all of them are pro wrestling, of course, but there are a few non-wrestling ones that I do listen to. Not very many, though. And today is Monday, so we have Raw tonight, and I do hope to have a new episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic tonight after Raw. Hopefully we'll get that done. And we had a huge pro wrestling day last Saturday, and then I wouldn't say quite as big this week, but Friday we do have the usual shows: WWE Friday Night SmackDown and AEW Rampage. But also Friday night we have Ring of Honor's Death Before Dishonor pay-per-view, which the main event will be changed, I should say. It was originally going to be Claudio Castagnoli defending the Ring of Honor World Championship against Mark Briscoe, but it has been reported now Mark Briscoe out with an injury, will not be able to compete. I'm guessing that this Thursday on Ring of Honor on Honor Club The Go Home episode, they will probably name a replacement. Maybe they'll have some kind of a three-way or a four-way match and make that number one contenders match. Or maybe they'll just name a replacement. We will have to wait till Thursday to find out, probably. Or unless maybe they go ahead a day before on Dynamite and maybe make that announcement. And yes, we have seen before for the Ring of Honor pay-per-views, yes, they do get some mention on AEW television, but not really a whole lot. And for this one, though, I don't really expect that much, especially since for 1 hour, probably, Death Before Dishonor will be going head-to-head against Rampage, and I'm sure Warner Brothers Discovery probably wouldn't want AEW plugging something that'll be going against a program that'll be on one of their networks. So I don't really expect too much coverage or promotion for Death Before Dishonor on Dynamite. And that's all for this Monday morning episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic. Hope everyone is having a great Monday morning so far. Remember, if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, you can leave your feedback still from last Saturday, whether you want to talk about New Japan's G1 or AAA Triple Mania, Impact Slammiversary, or AEW Collision and Battle of the Belt 7. You can leave your feedback on all those shows in the comments section on Spreaker, YouTube, or whichever podcast website or app you listen to on. And hope to have 360 Wrestling Fanatic after Raw tonight. And we'll be here tomorrow for Tuesday's episode of GMWF. But until then, have a great pro wrestling day.